The next day at work flew by in a blur of contract reviews and decor discussions. With the art gallery chosen for the Climate Quest event, Sebastian and Sicil were deeply immersed in perfecting the finer details. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow across their workspace, Sebastian set down his papers and glanced up, catching Sicil's eye. "Hey, any plans tonight?" he asked casually, though the question held a hint of genuine curiosity. Sicil looked up from her sketches, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Actually, yes. I'm meeting Ethan at his restaurant later. He said he has a surprise for me," she shared, the excitement evident in her voice. For a split second, something flickered in Sebastian's eyes, maybe a mix of curiosity and an unspoken emotion, but it was gone just as quickly, replaced by a warm smile. "That sounds great. I hope you have a wonderful time," he replied sincerely. Sicil studied his expression, sensing a subtle shift. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" she asked gently, her gaze searching his face for any sign of discomfort. "You're welcome to join us if you want." Sebastian chuckled, shaking his head. "No, it's fine. I've got a few things to wrap up, and besides," he paused, his smile growing softer. "It's nice that you two get to catch up. I know how much he means to you." Sicil's brows furrowed slightly, touched by his understanding. "You're really okay with it?" "Of course," Sebastian reassured her, his voice steady. "I know Ethan is important to you, and if spending time with him makes you happy, that's all that matters to me." He met her gaze, his eyes filled with a sincerity that made her heart swell. "Thank you, Seb," Sicil said quietly, her voice filled with appreciation. She hesitated for a moment before adding, "How about we spend some time together tomorrow, just the two of us?" Sebastian's smile widened, clearly pleased by her suggestion. "I'd like that. Tomorrow sounds perfect." As Sicil gathered her things ready to head out, Sebastian leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. He had a good hunch about what Ethan might be planning, an early birthday celebration for Sicil. The idea warmed his heart rather than stirred any jealousy. He could appreciate Ethan's thoughtfulness, knowing that he was trying to make her feel special, just as Sebastian had his own plans for the next day. Watching Sicil leave, a gentle smile graced Sebastian's lip. He realized that despite any lingering unease about Ethan, it wasn't about competition or rivalry for him. It was about Sicil's happiness. And if spending time with Ethan brought her joy, he was willing to embrace that. Sebastian knew that love meant putting the other person's needs and happiness above his own insecurities. He wanted Sicil to feel cherished, supported, and free to nurture the relationships that mattered to her. Her laughter, her smile, that's what mattered most to him. And for that, he was willing to set aside his own feelings and be at peace with whatever brought light to her life. The atmosphere in Ethan's restaurant was intimate and inviting. The kitchen transformed into a private haven for two. In the far corner, a table was elegantly set, adorned with Sicil's favorite flowers, daisies, delicate and pure. The warm glow of candlelight flickered across the space, reflecting off the chilled bucket of wine beside a beautifully plated dish of grilled fish. As Sicil entered, she took in the cozy setup, her eyes widening in surprise. Ethan greeted her with a warm smile, stepping closer to press a gentle kiss to her cheek. The soft brush of his lips sent a shiver down her spine, and she looked up at him, touched by the thoughtfulness of it all. "What's the occasion?" she asked playfully, though the sparkle in her eyes gave away her delight. Ethan took her hand, leading her to the table. "Happy early birthday, Sicil," he murmured, pulling out a chair for her. When she hesitated, a puzzled look crossing her face, Ethan grinned. "I figured I might not get a chance to celebrate with you like this tomorrow, so I wanted to make tonight special, just for us." Sicil's lips parted in surprise. "I completely forgot my own birthday," she confessed with a soft laugh, a blush tinting her cheeks. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head as he sat down across from her. "You forgot your own birthday? Typical Sicil," he teased, his tone filled with affection. "Good thing I remember. I wanted us to have a moment, just the two of us, away from everything else." Reaching across the table, he took her hand in his thumb brushing gently over her knuckles. The warmth of his touch sent a comforting wave through her, and she squeezed his hand in return. "Thank you, Ethan. This means so much," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. For a while, they simply sat there, talking, laughing, and savoring the delicious meal that Ethan had prepared himself. The way he looked at her with such genuine affection and admiration made her heart flutter. It felt as though time had slowed down, leaving only the two of them in their own little world. After dinner, Ethan stood and extended his hand to her, a playful smile on his lips. "I've got another surprise for you," he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Sicil raised an eyebrow. "Another one? You're spoiling me tonight," she teased, taking his hand as he led her to a small makeshift stage set up in a cozy corner. "I figured we could have our own private karaoke session," he announced, handing her a microphone. Before she could respond, the familiar tune of "Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You" filled the room. Ethan began to sing, his voice deep and soulful, pouring his emotions into every word. Sicil's breath hitched as she watched him, her eyes filling with tears of joy. She joined him, their voices blending together in perfect harmony, singing line by line, laughing at moments when their voices playfully clashed, but always coming back together, stronger. When the next song started, Hero by Enrique Iglesias, Ethan's eyes softened and he stepped closer, holding out his hand to her as he sang, "Would you dance if I asked you to dance?" Sicil's heart skipped a beat. She nodded, standing and slipping into his embrace. The warmth of his body against hers felt like coming home, and as they swayed gently to the music, it was as if the entire world melted away. His hands rested on her waist, pulling her closer, while she wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingers threading through his hair. As Ethan sang the chorus, "I can be your hero, baby. I can kiss away the pain. I will stand by you forever. You can take my breath away." He leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with a raw, tender emotion that made Sicil's heart swell. She lifted her face to his, their lips meeting in a sweet, lingering kiss that spoke volumes of promises, unspoken words, and a love that ran deep. The kiss deepened, and for a moment, the music faded into the background as they got lost in each other. It was a kiss that felt like a new beginning, a silent vow that they would be there for one another, come what may. When they finally pulled back, both breathless and smiling, Sicil rested her head on Ethan's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. He held her close, his hands gently stroking her back as they continued to sway to the fading notes of the song. The clock struck midnight, and Ethan led her back to the table, where a small, beautifully decorated chocolate fudge cake waited, a single candle flickering atop it. "Make a wish," he whispered, his hands resting on her shoulders, his lips brushing against her ear. Sicil closed her eyes, the warmth of his love wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. She made a silent wish, her heart filled with hopes of endless love and happiness. When she blew out the candle, she opened her eyes to find Ethan gazing at her, his smile tender and full of affection. He began to sing "Happy Birthday" softly, his voice wrapping around her like a sweet caress. Sicil felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes as she looked at him, overwhelmed by the love she saw in his eyes. Without thinking, she leaned in and kissed him again, a gentle press of her lips against his, savoring the sweetness of the moment. "Thank you, Ethan," she whispered against his lips, her voice filled with gratitude. "This is the best birthday I could have ever wished for." Ethan cupped her face in his hands, pressing his forehead against hers. "You deserve nothing but the best, Sicil," he murmured, his thumbs brushing away the stray tears on her cheeks. "And I promise, as long as I'm here, I'll do everything I can to make you feel loved and cherished every single day." In that moment, wrapped in his embrace and surrounded by the glow of candlelight, Sicil knew she had found something truly special. It was more than just a celebration. It was a memory etched into her heart forever, a reminder of the love they shared that would carry them through any storm.